What if I were to suggest that you play a key role in the awakening world? And that you are watching this because you have heard the call. We can start right now by opening our hearts and minds. Welcome to the awakening world.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Love Coach Scott Katamas, and welcome to the Awakening World, our Saturday night edition. And about every month or two, we are blessed to have Alan Steinfeld and his friends with us. And Alan, of course, is the founder and creator of New Realities Television. He puts on amazing events. He takes cruises. This man's all over the world, connecting with the leaders of the UFO, UAP, government disclosure movement. And Alan, I know you've got a lot of exciting information to share with us tonight.
Well, I'm really excited about this point in time. It seems like something is gelling in the UFO UAP field. It's coming forward. We're going to share some of that latest information with some of my good friends here and what's happening in the press, in mainstream news. We are going mainstream, Scott. So this is bridging our whole community into the big global tribe family. So I'm excited.
It's been a long time coming.
Yes, exactly.
And I can't wait. We get to hear again from JJ and Desiree Hurtaker with us. And you talk about doing it for a long time. They have been at the root of it. I remember as a teenager reading the Keys of Enoch. And so to have them with us is amazing. And we also have one of our most beloved people, John Martin, who's got new video footage for us. He's going to play some guitar for us. And as always, we're going to start the show like we always do with our beloved brother, our house musical artist, the Alpha and Omega man, Mr. Omar Shah.
Namaste and welcome everybody. And welcome everybody watching on Facebook and YouTube. And all of our streaming partners, thank you so much. I believe New Realities is one of them. And what a concept. So without further ado, here we go into the universe. Okay. Good,
Wow.
What
That's the perfect song.
Did he nail it or what?
I think I started.
Beautiful.
That's one of my favorite John Lennon songs, and that's just the anthem for where we're going across the universe. So thank you, Omar Shah.
Yeah, that was just perfect. Absolutely magnificent. Before we start, I have received a request from some of our regulars on the show. And when you watch the video, what does it say? We're here to inspire. And so I'm going to make a request. And that is that we are going to use the chat box to talk about UFOs, UAPs, government disclosure. We're going to talk about how members of our community are feeling, hyper, but we're not going to talk politics. I'm going to ask that actually from now until the end of the election, that we're not going to promote or put down our particular political beliefs. I just really respect if everybody will please honor that. We each have a right to our own belief, our own opinion. And honestly, rather than promoting one particular person or hating another, I just encourage us all to remember maximum grace. Maximum grace for the election, maximum grace for our country, maximum grace for humanity, maximum grace for our awakening world. So just wanted to get that out there. And Alan Steinfeld, I am turning it over to you because you've got some really cool stuff to show.
Well, I'm so happy you decide to do these programs on Making Contact, because this is our time. We are moving into a whole new way of seeing the world. And one of the things I want to focus on tonight, should I show my PowerPoint here?
Go for it.
Are we ready for that? Okay. This is, do you see that? Wait, let me just pull that up on my screen so people can see that. This is the latest best-selling book called Imminent by Lou Elizondo. And it is like here, I write on this little thing. It was a New York Times bestseller, today's bestseller, Amazon bestseller, just out last week. And what is imminent? Well, this is what Lou himself, who did a little background, he was a former intelligence officer. He he was hired to look at UFOs. I mean, it's sort of a long story. He was hired to look at the UFO phenomenon. He didn't know anything about it. And he said, hey, why doesn't everyone know about this? Why are you keeping this secret? He said to the insiders in the Pentagon. And so he defected, he left the Pentagon and went rogue in a sense, and he's here to tell the world what's really going on. So this is a little clip about what is imminent.
Disclosure. The realization that the U.S. government is aware that the topic of UAPs is not only valid, but they're real. Ross, we're not alone. We are not alone in this universe, and the U.S. government has been aware of that fact now for decades.
The American public, the entire planet, is being lied to by the American government about what's really going on.
I think if the American public knew just how deep this lie went, that we would have a very significant constitutional crisis on our hands. I took an oath to the American people.
I just want to say one thing, Scott. I want to discuss some of this. A constitutional crisis. Do you realize what he's saying? If people knew what was really going on, we'd know that the Pentagon has gone rogue and is not telling Congress what it knows, and that's the constitutional crisis, and we could discuss that, but let me just continue.
To defend this country from all enemies, foreign and domestic, and it turns out that the enemy was elements in our own government. It was the bureaucracy.
You became increasingly aware, didn't you, that there were people in the Pentagon, in the intelligence community, in private aerospace, who didn't want you investigating UAPs?
Absolutely.
Whatever the motivations for the alleged cover-up, Elizondo says it went way beyond mere bureaucratic foot-dragging. People were threatened, weren't they?
Oh, absolutely. Some of our folks were told, if you're not careful, we're going to do exactly to you what we did with the Rosenbergs. You're done.
So people are being threatened with death if they talk about this?
Sure, because, and by the way, people say, oh, the government would never do that. Try getting on Area 51. There's signs on the fence that say lethal force is authorized. You absolutely can use lethal force to protect national security investments and equities. That we do it.
Elizondo describes the mounting obstructions, the denied requests, the scrapped plans, the threats, and above all, the steadfast refusal to disclose any of this, either to the public, the Congress, or even the President.
We began to run into some fierce resistance. And the more we continued to investigate, the increased level of that resistance became. There were elements, the only way I can describe them as religious fundamentalists.
It's a group that is euphemistically dubbed as the Collins elite, isn't it?
It is.
The Collins elite has long been rumoured to be a cabal of religious fanatics within the Pentagon.
There are religious fundamentalists inside the Pentagon and inside the U.S. government, and specifically the intelligence community, that have a very, how shall I say, strict interpretation of their philosophical belief system.
Elizondo recounts one specific encounter with a high-ranking member of this so-called Collins elite.
He stopped me in the halls at the Pentagon. He says, and you know what we're dealing with are demons. These are demonic beings, and we shouldn't be looking at.
By early 2017, it had all become too much. So there came a time during your work with ATIP where you just decided, I'm getting nowhere, I'm getting blocked, I'm getting stymied. What did you decide to do?
I went public. I resigned.
Elizondo said he was quitting because, despite overwhelming evidence, certain individuals in the department remain staunchly opposed to further research on the controversial topic of anomalous aerospace threats.
I'm doing this because I believe it's the right thing to do.
You suffered retribution, and in fact the Office of Special Investigations in the Air Force began a criminal investigation against you, didn't they?
They did.
Publicly, the Pentagon has also denied Lou's claim that he was the head of ATIP, both in prior public statements and directly to News Nation for this report, effectively calling him a liar and a fraud.
What bothers me is when people question my loyalty, my intentions of what I'm trying to do. That cuts deep.
What do you think yourself of the fact that the Pentagon, as you describe it, has been
That's Elizondo's wife.
actively trying to discredit Lou?
I think it's shameful. This is how you're repaid. It makes no sense to me. It makes no sense.
We need to have an intelligence community that is willing to speak truth to power. Here comes a guy who does that and clearly is correct. Does he get an award for identifying a huge, major vulnerability in America's air defense like he should? No, he gets harassed by these bureaucrats because he's doing stuff that is inconvenient.
It's inconvenient for the government. Now, one other slide I just want to show before I come back to you, Scott. Now, why is it imminent? Because this is the reported UFO sightings in the last 20 years, just the report, 167,000 UFO reports, and the blue colors are in every county in the U.S. where these reports have come in, and that's just the reported cases. And so for every reported case, and I've received stuff I've never reported, I'd say there's 100 or 1,000 maybe unreported cases. So there's stuff flying in our skies. It's here. The government's denying it, but it can't deny people's experiences. So I'm curious about what people think about what we've just seen from Lou Elizondo and why it's important we come out with the truth, because it is our time to move the reality from an old 3D world into a higher, more conscious global peace tribe. Scott, any comments from you?
Oh, it's beautiful. Thank you. Carol, I'm going to read some comments from our audience. Carol Craig writes, "It is our duty to speak truth to power." And she had an experience while she was in Kenya. She also had one in Colorado. I had one, well, during the making of Men in Love. Remember that whole experience?
Yes, what happened there?
So we were all out by the hot tub, and we had a UFO come by, and it was relating to us. It came by a few times, and it was great because there was a lot of us that saw it. And that was back in 1989.
Yes, 1989. We're in Maui together there, Scott,
Pretty
and that
fine,
was
yeah, yeah. So, well, I would love for you to share whatever else, and then bring on. Well, I'm going to read actually a couple more comments.
Yeah.
Reverend Jeffrey, who we're going to hear from today, says it is happening and resistance is futile. That's a good play for those of us that are Star Trek fans. Susan Bloomquist writes, the constitutional crisis is imminent because it is necessary for the military to report to Congress.
That's really key, Scott, that last comment, because this is actually why the Democrats and Republicans, and I don't want to talk about politics, but they're coming together against the military who won't share its secrets with Congress. This is the constitutional issue. Congress is paying the bills and they're not getting reported back what they're doing with this money. Of course, a good friend of ours, Danny Sheehan, is well on top of it. He is Lou Elizondo's lawyer. And I'm sorry we couldn't get it this time, but maybe next month Danny will appear on the show with us. What else you got there, Scott?
So Ayada writes, I am so excited to have Alan Steinfeld and JJ and Desiree with us tonight. I saw all of you at Tangila's Psychic Fair earlier this year in Scotts Valley.
Nice.
And then Ayada writes, this is a new concept for me, that there are religious fundamentalists in high positions who regard ETs as demons. Sounds like we haven't learned a lot since the days of Galileo, when he was sentenced to life imprisonment by the Catholic Church for his concept that the earth and planets revolve around the sun.
Right. We have not progressed in 400 years since Galileo. And actually, I want to talk to you, Scott, because you were showing things about Christian fundamentalists too. You had a series going on. Can you comment on that? Yeah.
Well, I just made a point not to talk politics today.
Oh, okay.
I'm not going to go there. But what I will share that's positive is when I was with Danny Sheehan personally, he has direct access to Pope Francis. And because they're both Jesuits, Pope Francis is the first Jesuit Pope, and Danny, of course, is a Jesuit. And up until now, it was the Catholic Church that was blocking government disclosure. But Francis wants there to be disclosure because he's a very evolved human being, and he perceives that it'll bring humanity together.
Yeah.
So now it's Lockheed Martin that's primarily trying to stop government disclosure because they want to own the rights to the craft or parts of the crafts that have been found after the crashes. And they want to monetize it. And that's what actually is hanging it up. And of course, as you know, Alan, there's a battle going on right now for disclosure. And the majority of people in government want there to be disclosure. And there's a real battle going on for it.
Right. The thing about the crash retrievals and the people making money from private industry, that property really belongs to the American people.
Yes.
That is taken by our military, we're paying for, given to private industry. And then I can't prove this, that the military is getting kickback from private industry for selling those secrets. That has to be illegal, right? Yeah. I mean,
and we should also say that we don't just get the crashes because they don't just crash in America. Look at what happened in Virginia, where there was clearly a crash, and boom, I mean, we whipped in there and got it. So, there's a lot of funny stuff, but to make sense of all of this, two of the wisest people I know are with us. I am so happy that you were able to arrange for JJ and Desiree to be with us. I'm going to bring them on, and I'm going to let you also introduce them because I know that you're very dear friends.
Thank you. Well, I don't go anywhere without them, it looks like. But, they have been good friends where we've traveled a lot. We've lectured a lot. They're actually in my book, Making Contact. They have a key chapter in there talking about different levels of consciousness as it relates to the ETs. And they're worldwide spiritual teachers. They're linguists. They're archaeologists, anthropologists. I was just in Egypt with them last year. So they are the two people that have the best comprehensive overview of this phenomena from a cosmological and spiritual and practical level. So doctors JJ and Desiree Hurtak. Dr. Hurtak is the author of Keys of Enoch, and together they've written many, many books, The Over Self-Awakening. So what's your comments, Desiree?
Well, I just want to add to what Scott was saying. It's unusual that, of course, Elizondo said there's groups that don't want anything to do with extraterrestrials. Now, we do classify them as below the angels, but people like Billy Graham kind of accepted their reality and really wasn't putting them down as being demons. There could be some aspects. Obviously, we know we live in a world of duality, and some of them are not as positive, but most of them, I believe, are trying to help us. So also the head of the Vatican Observatory some years ago was very aware of extraterrestrials and did want to put this out in a larger scale. So
right, and I'm working with one of the top Protestant theologians at the Theological Graduate School at Berkeley, Dr. Peters, who with Catholic theologians has put together a questionnaire showing that the majority of theologians who really know theology and the history of philosophy would realize that this would be a step forward rather than a step backwards.
And, this is what a lot of our books are about, showing that we're just one of many civilizations in this local life space. And then there are even greater life spaces. But that's not our talk tonight. So,
well, to put this in proper perspective, Ellen, you mentioned, Scott, also Keys of Enoch. And you show the film with Luis Elizondo. His takeoff really begins in behind the scenes, of course, with the declassified film in 2017 of the Nimitz event. But this goes back to 2004, and the Keys of Enoch actually mentioned 2004. This book was written in 1973 as the watermark, when vehicles would come out of the ocean and people would make a distinction between that paradigm of the past and the new paradigm of realizing the cosmic cultures are with us, are close to us, and now dialogue can sensibly begin on a higher level of both science as well as spirituality. And I'm speaking of spirituality in the more general sense of realizing that evolution doesn't stop with Mother Earth, but continues to the other planetary systems.
Right. So to be specific, as Dr. Hurtak said, the Keys came out in 1973, but he mentioned a particular date of 2004, and that's exactly when a lot of this started coming forth. In fact, if you go back to some of the government documents of analysis, they only started in 2004 because that's when Lou Elizondo came out with this. Let's go on, though, for a minute to our PowerPoint, if I can, and to share that. And we're starting with a friend of ours, because we actually did a book that we were the advisors on from Sidney Sheldon called Doomsday Conspiracy. And so we introduced Sidney Sheldon to Gordon Cooper and had many meetings together and shared a lot together.
And of course, he was the great pioneer with the Mercury program, test pilot over Eastern, who saw literally a flotilla of spaceships back in 1951. They didn't put him in a crazy house. They gave him the status of being an astronaut because he told the truth. I'm going to read just a little excerpt from his book, Leap of Faith, that's very important. He writes, I would give the public more credit than our government has at times. Most people want to know what's going on in the world around them and would rather hear the truth, whatever it is, than a pack of lies. Right now, I'm convinced that a lot of very embarrassed government officials are sitting in Washington trying to figure a way to bring the truth out. They know it's got to come out one day, and I'm sure it will. America has a right to know. But as I see it, our government is now trapped in a big box of old lies. It's going to take a lot of courage on the part of some future administration to say, quote, folks, our government has been lying to you all these years. Now we're going to come clean and tell you the real truth, end of quote. He goes on to say, as I said, that's going to take courage, something there that doesn't seem to be a surplus of in Washington these days. So Gordon, Desiree and I, we shared several experiences of actual encounters with extraterrestrial intelligence. And I would encourage our audience to be aware of this book, Leap of Faith. published in 2000 that really says that there is a government within a government and that we have a right to know, but also a right to share. Gordon was a man of faith, and I share with him that higher faith that there is a cosmic source that brings consciousness into an awareness that we are not alone.
Right, and I want to say we consider there's 3 reasons why governments have not released. One is exactly what he's saying. You know, it goes back even to 1947 in this country with Roswell. You know, they've been covering up for how many years is that? Oh, well over 75, because there was just the Roswell celebration a few years back. Then also, as Alan had stated about the technology, this technology back engineered, and we've been using it on many capacities. In fact, you know, from everything from probably fiber optics to maybe the types of space planes that we're now developing. Even SpaceX is developing a type of triangular spacecraft right now. So that's one aspect. And then the third, which is what we really get into more than anything, is that it's not that simple. It's not that one, you know, intelligence from outer space has been watching us and visiting us. It's many intelligences are watching us. Some are abducting us. Some are protecting us. There's all that. So Alan, though, specifically asked us to work this evening and not get so involved in the U.S. So that's our last slide on that.
Why?
topic.
Because we work as international scholars, researchers, field investigators, and we have had the opportunity to bring back actually space metal for our experts to analyze, but then officially lose.
So everyone knows about the USS Nimitz in 2004. We said that was a key note in Dr. Hertag's book, that was going to allow us to take a quantum leap. It was seen, this is what you're looking at here, the waters off of San Diego, the Tic Tac UFO, the 14th of November, 2004. But we want to say, in comparison with this event, there was something near Campeche, Mexico. So Campeche is at the very kind of south area of the Gulf of Mexico. It reaches into the Yucatan. And officially, there were 11, and this is similar to what Gordon Cooper saw, you know, a whole flotilla. There was 11 unidentified flying objects on March 5th, 2004. Now we're going to show that in a minute. Here it is. It's going to have some sound, mostly Spanish. But I want you to keep in mind when you watch this, that it's all seen from forward-looking infrared or FLIR. The actual pilots did not see it, but the ground radar did see it.
This is very important.
And they're only showing us about 3 minutes. They have 30 minutes, and it's more than the 11 vehicles they're counting. So let's listen for just a very brief second. This is all military, by the way. These are the guys that monitor so they're just watching.
7, 8 de la posición. Lo raro es que trae una punta delante.
8 in the screen, pantalla, the screen.
¿Están a la misma altura este taller? Afirmativo.
So these are guys that were monitor drug runners every day.
They were radar operators. They could not physically see with their eyes the objects, but they could see on radar. As a matter of fact, I'm holding up before you one of the military reports that I was given, that there were 2 radars. One was the conventional radar, and the other was the FLIR, the forward-looking radar. And of course, it was important because we have thus 2 scientific systems of measurement. Now, the professional crew also of 8 was not able to make visual contact, nor the actual control tower. But again, the technical information, the infrared cameras speak volumes. This allowed, a week later, the top military, with my colleague Jaime Maussan, who I trained in Mexico City, Televisa, a very important airline pilot by the name of Luis March, and others, to come together, providing information that the military in Mexico wanted to release to the world. This would have been a major disclosure, many magnitudes higher than what happened with the situation off of California that Elizondo was talking about.
So
but it was prevented because this was overwhelming information. It was not just 11 vehicles. There were more than 100 vehicles, each of them of a gargantuan size. This is to say more than 20 stories high. So this was considered too unsettling to go forward. And under wise counsel, it was decided on the inner circle, both Mexico as well as the United States, that this information would not be released. Nonetheless, it stands as a testimony that other governments of the world, besides the United States, have been given a, shall we say, a treat to the realization that cosmic cultures are on our doorstep and are concerned about the way that we are using technology.
Right. So just to reiterate what Dr. Jung was saying, the Mexican government, because this was so ironclad, was just about to release this. Jaime Maussan and our friend Luis March were all part of the release, along with the 8 crew and the whole military. This is all military stuff from Mexico. And they got a call the night before and said, cut it. Don't do it. We'll stop the funding. We'll stop this. We'll stop that if you release it. So it's just all part of that. Let's go on because there's even more. Let's continue on to share the screen. So the next one is Chile. We're going to go further south. Sorry
In
about
November,
that. Yes.
and this was
So this is from a
2014.
right, a Chilean Navy helicopter pilot in, as Dr. Jack said, 2014. It's west of Santiago. That's the big town there. At an altitude lower than an airplane, 4,500 feet. Look what's going on here.
As if aerosol experiments were taking place.
So again, this is all Navy. These are governments. These are reports that are, known and understood.
Our population targets being selected for what we will call aerosol masking, which means the control of the atmosphere that can help or hurt the population below involved in the aerosol cloud.
Look how that sphere broke away from that. And right now we're starting to do similar things, right? Seeding clouds and
The military that we talked to
doing it.
in Chile and other countries in South America could not explain this phenomena.
Yeah, and it wasn't some airplane. And I have to go back a minute to the House of Representatives hearings where we had Mr. Graves that was there. And he said, when we increased the radar on our data out at Richmond, Virginia, we started seeing UFOs. At first, they thought they were just anomalies, but then they saw them on 3 or 4 other pattern technologies. And they said, no, UFOs are there. They're not being seen. We can talk about that another time, but here's Brazil.
I guess the most important aspect of my life was, I was in Brazil. I had consulted with scholars. I was also a privileged scholar giving lectures at the University of Campinas in southern Brazil. And in the area known as a small industrial city by the name of Salto dos Campos in southern Brazil, in May of 1986, 21 aerial objects, or OVNIs as they are called, we would call them UAPs, were able to intersect airspace, show themselves. Now, these were not ordinary metal ships. These are what I will call ultra-terrestrial vehicles. In fact, this case is so important, even though it was classified, it was eventually shown on the BBC. It was so important. It shows me in the foreground with my translator and scientific colleague, looking at the reality that we have a whole flotilla of ships that have a very unique etheric nature, that are making a V-like formation in the sky over an unknown military target at that time, as well as a nuclear facility that was being built by the Brazilian government, unknowns to NASA, unknowns to the American government. And so the appearance of the flotilla of 21 vehicles actually blew the lid on the cover-up of what was taking place. And this led to legislation. It led to press releases showing that there was something more to the surveillance that was taking place of our planet at this time. Needless to say, we know from declassified CIA and military reports in 1976, all of our major nuclear weapons storage areas were also this object of surveillance by unknown forces. So this upside is we're being watched. The downside is who's on first base. And of course, then you can understand why the Pentagon and why those in high positions, even in the Brazilian government, would want to be cautious as to who's going to be the commander-in-chief, or should we say, who will be the minister of a whole new philosophy of life. And of course, our work with the indigenous in the areas of Brazil and areas of many of the South American countries has led to their sharing with us valuable information. But the
Right.
star nations are coming back because they do not like what is happening on our planet.
Right. So here's a video. It's actually on Alan's New Realities TV. I also have a link to mine, which is Keys of Enoch TV. But this is called Moment of Contact. It was an interview done with James Fox, or Jamie Fox, who went down there and did a lot of study about this. You can see what the alien looked like in the upper left picture. And we're going to listen to the video just in case I had actually transcribed some of this. And it's a great video we did with him. We were very involved in the case. He was very involved. Yeah, it's called the Varginha case. There was a UFO that came down. There was at least 2 aliens that were part of it. One died, it seemed, right away. The other one lived a little bit longer and telepathically talked to one of the medical doctors who was trying to help them. But since we're talking about cover-up, we want to just show this little clip from the video. Let me go back and make sure we get from the start. Oops. Okay, I guess well.
When Paccaccini, after having disappeared, one of the leading researchers on the case, resurfaced 18 years later, which is just a few weeks ago, he said word on the street with the Brazilian authorities that he talked with back in '96 was that the Americans shot it down or brought it down or whatever you want to say. That's what he said. I'm not saying that. That's what he said.
Brought it down outside of Brazil and then it flew into Brazil? Is that what you said?
It was damaged and it was heading in the direction of Minas Gerais, the state of Minas Gerais, which is where Varginha and Campinas and
So both of you are obviously aware that the Brazilian government had arrangements with the U.S. and also with NORAD, which was really overseeing a defensive shield of North and South America regarding unknown objects, which would include the category of extraterrestrial technology. So the Brazilian authorities were already told on January 16th that some sort of technology was flying over Brazilian airspace in that general area of Varginha. So they were already, the military were already alerted that something unusual was coming in, and perhaps they were prepared.
You were aware?
As indicated with radar.
Because I was going to say, that's not in the film, that what JJ just said. So that's
kind of, I put a statement at the front that it was rumored, and then I sent it to intelligence people in the U.S. and nobody really had an issue with it. I indirectly spoke with a gentleman who wrote a book, a Brazilian researcher who had met with Brazilian authorities, and they had shared that information anonymously, and we felt comfortable enough at that point to keep it in the film. Although I was right on the edge with it, But then when I got response from some of the military guys in the U.S., I was like, okay, well, I think there's enough evidence to leave it in.
As soon as it crashes, it seems like the military's already on the scene, according to your witness, right, James?
I think they got to the scene within minutes.
Within minutes? Well, that's pretty good. So they were expecting that to happen. It's like they were probably tracking it somehow. This was Brazilian military, right? And
those guys came from the base ESA.
And they picked up the craft in the field. Is that what happened?
We don't have, the only military witness that we have is Military X, and his friend was part of the ground operation for the recovery of the crashed object. He was not part of that, but he said his friend said, yeah, that's where it all started, at the Mylene farm.
And and of course, the Americans came in, they got the body. Do you think they also took the craft with them back to the U.S.?
That I don't know.
Actually, the craft first went to, they picked them up in Campinas, went to Sao Paulo, and from Sao Paulo to Panama, and from Panama to the States. But I don't have any of the details. I was told this by a military person who was.
Yeah.
So I can jump in. I was lecturing at the University of Campinas. I talked to medical doctors who talked only with their eyes because they were sworn to secrecy. They could not talk with their mouth, only with their eyes. But the specimens were there. There were more than 2. There's quite a few specimens that were shipped out of the country. And I was there because of my research. I work with the indigenous, as you know.
And also General Ochoa, who was
our colleague, who's head of the educational program at the Air Force, facility in Brasilia. So the crash took place in Minas Gerais, excuse me. The military convoy brought the bodies down to Campinas, where clinical doctors did the autopsies underground. I was able to know some of the details. And then they were shipped to the area of Panama and then brought to the United States. So there's a reason for this. My late colleague, Stanton Friedman, said these were aliens of the lower type. In other words, it was a mixture of hybrids that were being experimented with. So if this is true from the Brazilian perspective of the military autopsies, Stanton Friedman and others that I know who work behind the scenes, clearly there is some experimentation going on. It's way over the boundaries of human respect and understanding. And so this in itself would be one of the reasons why any government, including now the Brazilian, the Chilean, even the Argentinian, would be somewhat reluctant to put all the cards on the table when your citizens are being taken for medical experiments.
Right, and these beings had red eyes, protuberances on the tops of their heads. And let's just go on because our time is short here. The British also, I thought this is like amazing that the Prime Minister Winston Churchill ordered a UFO cover-up. That's even before we even knew what was going on the 5th of August, 1944. That's during the war, due to a confirmed military sighting of a UFO. So you want to know who the first government was to do a cover-up? Well, at least in terms of reporting about it, that this came out in the paperwork
Or a
later.
superpower government, the United Kingdom.
It was Churchill. So, and then a secret 1957 report prepared for British intelligence chief says that there was an average of one sighting reported a week way back in 1957. So Alan showed that great picture, but ultimately, you know, it's been going on for a long time. And then in 2010, 5,000 pages of correspondence were released by the Minister of Defense. And of course, that is where Nick Pope used to work, and the National Archives for the public.
So this is a much bigger picture than that which is going on in Washington, D.C. Much bigger picture because it involves all of human civilization.
And just a final thing, a couple more slides, but this is, to me, one of the most important cases, and it's called the Rendlesham Forest, and it's in Suffolk. It's also called the Bentwaters. There was UFO seen on the 26th of December, right after Christmas, till the 28th. The first one was MPs, one was a woman. She won't even talk about what she saw. The second was associates that Alan and we have talked to. Pendleton, you can see down there.
As well as Larry Warren.
Yeah, and they went and actually touched the spacecraft. And then Larry Warren talks about the next night, which is when these, it was secret, and that actually, I have to say, the picture in the middle was one of the things that Jim Pendleton saw on the spacecraft. They had pictographs. And then in terms of the 28th, then the whole, we'll say, military base, and it's a joint a UK and USA base that had nuclear missiles. No one knew about this. And supposedly lights came down over the base. Everyone was there. Everyone was looking. And the nuclear missiles all went dead. Very similar to what happened at Malmstrom Air Force Base as well.
So the object or the diagram in the center speaks of the metaphysical language system beyond the telepathic signals that were being received by various contactees throughout the world, suggesting that there was a higher vocabulary. As you can see by the little interpretation of the pyramid-like object in the center, there's something connected with pyramidal geometries as a building block of evolution throughout world cultures. And also you can see that some of the best minds in the United Kingdom, as well as the United States, and these are people with multiple degrees, realize there's something more in terms of psychology / cosmology at stake here.
So one more, government and France. I mean, really, there's a lot of politics going on in the news in France, but they've actually released, it's called a Study Group of Information on Non-Identified Aerospace Phenomena. That is a government resource or research organization called GEIPAN. GEIPAN is how they're saying it. You can see the website there. It's cenesgeipan.fr, and then you can go on research and then the cases. Like MUFON, you can actually report French sightings, and they now have in the thousands, and they put them up on their screen. So, I mean, in a certain sense, they may be holding back certain things.
Well, the French have great minds. Yeah. I mean, Michel Clerc-Pouet, who testified at the United Nations privately, to Secretary General Kurt Waldheim, Jacques Vallée, others, they're the great minds behind the mystery, what has been seen historically as the synthesis of higher cultures and human cultures converging through symbolic language.
So we've written papers about the technology we believe that they have, and we believe it is electromagnetically based when it's in this reality. Can talk more about that. But the third case that I mentioned in terms of why they're not disclosing is the complexity. So you see Dr. Hurtak up with our good friend Elizabeth Clark
From South Africa.
and she was in contact. In fact, she was taken off the planet to what she claimed was the nearest star system, and it was Centauri, and she was absolutely right. She says they look like us. In fact, they've been here before. We're part of them. They're part of us.
And there's a painting of her contact person.
And then if you go down, we're talking about robot intelligences. They actually have been seen.
The bottom left.
The Pascagoula, Mississippi didn't look like that, but robotics is a possibility. The J-Rod, that supposedly the intelligence, I'm going over to the right, that had visited Area 51 and gave them information.
And actually, I presented a profile of this at the first disclosure conference in 1995, Washington, D.C., called When Cosmic Cultures Meet, and I actually had an actual live mannequin, so to speak, moving and showing that this is not abnormal for people who are looking at the various scenarios. But I'm looking positively and constructively at what this means if you look at the bigger picture.
Right. So then you have praying mantis, and I can't see it underneath the screen there, but actually also bird-like people. And Alan and us were in Egypt, and the Birdman is all over the planet in terms of being sighted. So final slide is there's a great movie coming. It's called The Extraterrestrial Species Almanac. It's based on the book by Craig Campobasso, but this is a documentary. We're in it. It's coming out soon. And if you want to find more about us, we're Dr. Hurtak, and we're at keysofenoch.org.
Keep in mind the major questions. Why would the elite, scientific elite in all countries, not simply the United States, in Russia, in Japan, in France, why would they want to hold back information? Unless, of course, the intelligence would say, that is to say, the cosmic intelligence through their human emissaries, there's no God, there's no higher purpose. This would shake the foundations of Western civilization, or unless there was a genetic program. I'm not referring now to a very high medical colleague in Europe who said something unsettling many years ago when she said, we're the last generation of humans as we know them. So we are situationally in the situation of knowing that there are spiritual powers that are intervening, and that this has a spiritual connection with the great prophets, the sages, the mystics, the poets have all told us to look upwards. Share the good news, share the life, the wonderful music you're going to hear being shared tonight in this program. And we thank you, Scott, for basically being there as a tribe of peace.
Now, don't go away, because we've got questions for you and some interesting comments. But I had promised Reverend Jeffrey that we would, before 7 o'clock, because he has to go, do a quick thing. Can you stay for another few minutes?
Absolutely.
All right, God bless you. So, many of you remember that we had Reverend Jeffrey and his band of merrymakers from the International Space Federation on the show recently. And they did a fabulous job. We want to just remind everybody about the very, very exciting event that's going to be happening very, very soon. And I'm going to play a short video about it, and then we'll remind people about it. But here we go. Just a reminder about the Nature of Reality tour with Nassim.
Where does the electromagnetic field come from? Where does the gravitational field come from? It is an opportunity for humanity to unify and transcend the largest difficulties we face.
So, Jeffrey, remind our audience about how they can participate in this amazing event happening in Los Angeles next week.
Well, thank you very much, Scott. Of course, we got the discount here from the Awakening World, which we'll put on Scott will put up when we do the show the website. But this is not, we don't have to back engineer anymore. That we can forward engineer now, because Nassim has been working and is presented in beautiful mathematical language to all the scientists and engineers of the world how UAP works, what is the science underlying it. It's not like a mystery anymore. Like scientists, I don't know how they're doing it. We know how it's done, and we're excited about it. And he'll be announcing that next week, talking all about that next Saturday in LA, which you can book, get in, and be there live. It's history making, folks. This is like, if you want to be there when history is made, and releasing this information open sourced to the entire scientific and technological community, so they can follow that scientific path and create whatever kind of gravity control and new source of energy that they can come up with.
Beautiful. And again, a reminder, I've put it in the chat box for our Zoom roomers, but for all of you watching on Alan Steinfeld's New Realities TV and all the other YouTube channels and global broadcast partners, go to spacefed.com, spacefed.com. And there is a special code, which is going to get you a discount, and we really appreciate that. This is just for Global Peace Tribers only. And the code is ISF, that stands for International Space Federation, ISF Community 20, ISF Community 20. And that's how you can get the code, and it's happening. Let's be there. JJ and Desiree, have you worked with Nassim? Is he someone that's part of one of your colleagues?
We've known her for years, and we worked very closely with Elizabeth Rauscher and did many papers with her. And she had worked with Nassim some years back, and she's deceased at this point. But yeah, so we're totally familiar with him. He used to be in the North Bay area, like all of us, right?
Right.
And did lectures with him many years ago, of course, and even more recently as well.
So we see a great gathering taking place on all levels. The new science, the new consciousness of mind over matter, and also we call a higher spirituality, a divine spirituality, recognizing that behind the whole breakthroughs in music and art and historic
and
philosophy, there is that consciousness of the divine, multidimensional.
But we do think we're on the verge of several breakthroughs. We have friends also in Europe that are working with technologies that can take us beyond, the oil, whatever you want to call it, the dinosaur age, and move us forward, because the planet certainly needs that as part of what we are all about, because we're also the Academy for Future Science. So we work quite a bit in those directions.
And we're going to show that in a moment. Jeffrey, I know you need to leave for the airport, so
Thank you, and thank you to everyone here. I appreciate it, and God bless, and Levolution is the solution.
Absolutely. Love you, Jeffrey. All right, so I'm going to read a couple of comments from our audience. We've got a couple of questions for you, but I'm going to go back a moment to Gordon Cooper. So back in the mid-90s, I was in charge of all the UFO stories for a primetime series called The Paranormal Borderline. Jonathan Frakes from Star Trek was our host. It was a nationally broadcast show on what back then was called UPN, the United Paramount Network. And I did 3 shows with Gordon Cooper. And the agreement we made, he was living in Van Nuys. We were LA based. And so he said, look, here's the deal, Scott. I'll tell you what I know. When you find something interesting, let me know. Because I had 4 full-time researchers just handling all the different things we were researching. Now, Gordon came on and he talked about what happened in the 50s that you described. He also talked about when he worked at Edwards Air Force Base and one landed on the tarmac. But there was also something he said, I'll tell you a story, Scott, but I can't go on camera and share this story. But he's long gone. It's 30 years later, so I'm going to share it. As you probably know, when more and more people became aware of Area 51, everything got moved to Alice Springs, Australia. Alice Springs, Australia is in the middle of nowhere. There's an enormous joint US-British base, and that's where a lot of the black ops got moved to. Gordon Cooper, being who he was, Time Magazine Man of the Year astronaut, was invited to come down and see what they were up to. So he went down there, And they showed him, their different things. And what he shared with me that they showed him was they handed him a Coke bottle, a pen, and a Post-it note. And they said, put your name on the Coke bottle. So he wrote his name, put it on the Post-it, put it on the Coke bottle. And then they take him and they show him, he's outside watching. They go in and put the Coke bottle on a big metal plate. He's watching through a glass window. And straight out of Star Trek, Coke bottle disappears. They then walk to the room next door, very similar, and the Coke bottle appears on a metal container. And he said, wow. He said, wow, we could do that. He said, when do you think we'll be able to do it with people? And they said to him something along the lines of, well, we've been trying, but it doesn't always come out so well. Now that was, 1994 is when I worked with him. So that was 30 years ago. So you can imagine in 30 years how far our technology has come. So I ask you, JJ and Desiree, what do you know about our ability to transport people in that way? How far has the technology come?
Well, definitely teleportation. They're starting to do that on some levels. And of course, it's a matter of, I think just like Star Trek, how do you get on board? They don't have to come down and pick you up. Many people have been abducted. They take them right through the ceiling, right?
Well, there's distinction between being abducted and having the opportunity through free will and free association to be involved with what we will call a mystical or a higher consciousness experience. And that happened to me in 73. I was using the names of God. I was praying in ancient Aramaic, Arabic, Hebrew, Egyptian. These sounds created a morphogenic field of resonance, and I was able to pass through into another dimension. As a result, I wrote this book, Keys of Enoch, that actually forecasts where we would find certain situations under the ocean, specifically pyramids on Mars, exact details. But the good news is, in spite of all of these changes of climate, of political regimes, whatever, the good news is that the divine is going to reappear. Whether you have the indigenous tradition or the Judeo-Christian or the Eastern traditions, people of faith will come together realizing enough is enough. We're going to go beyond reductionism, materialism that is putting the whole world into complete chaos. And we're going to use our free association and our prayer to work with what I call the cosmic Christ, the realization that there is a divine behind the disobedient and the rebellious nature.
And I was just going to say, so the Philadelphia experiment, I think, gave the same results. Remember that boat that kind of disappeared? Right. We met one of the guys who was connected with it, and he said it was real, but it wasn't also so. And this is what, back in the 50s and whatever.
Actually, the 40s.
40s. Well, anyway, that they couldn't get it straight, but they were working on it. And I think, of course, the extraterrestrials have it straight. And yes, you can just completely disappear. Look at these spaceships. I mean, they're seeing them all over now. That's what Graves said on the House of Representatives. There's like tons. They had to debrief people every single day about the UFOs off the coast, but no one sees them with their eyes. You have to see them with the technology.
So this is where
they're already
discernment,
operating in those levels.
This is where discernment, responsibility, and harmony come into play. And I like to think of our work, to use an old Latin expression, pax et concordia, peace and harmony, without which everything goes into chaos and anarchy. So this is a point we must all realize. People of creativity, people of compassion, people of faith, ultimately come together in the synergy of creation.
And we can be teleported wherever we need to be, consciously and non-physically as well.
Some call this the ascension.
Anyway, we know you have a big program, so go ahead.
Well, I do want to get to some comments, and there's a question for you. But I want to acknowledge Elizabeth Sartoris is with us, and she's extraordinary. And she writes that she was in a helicopter with Edgar Mitchell, the astronaut. She knew him, of course. And they were in Brazil shortly after the Virginia incident, after that crash. And one of the pilots told him that his brother had seen the aliens, and the US military were there quickly and took the aliens away. And of course, we showed James Fox's film, Alan,
Right.
at Sunray Center. And a lot of the people who are in our audience watched, and we talked to James about the Virginia event. So, but the question that came up for you, let me find it.
We should have Elizabeth on our next show, Scott, that we're doing about.
I think she's in the audience right now.
Well,
Yeah.
we could have
Talks
her
about
say
the whole
something.
thing of how we just need to change frequencies and go into these
There
other.
she is. Elizabeth, welcome. Do you have anything to say about the worldwide UFO phenomena?
Yeah, well, as JJ and Desiree know, I was in that 1995 disclosure meeting. And what I wanted to say was, yeah, back to my keyboard, these alien ships know how to move from the physical to the non-physical. They can slide up and down. So when you hear a story in which a woman says, oh my God, the aliens came through the wall last night. They took me out to their ship. They did this and that. And before they brought me back, and the husband says, baloney, you were in bed all night. How can they both be right? Okay. He stayed in the physical. So he had no perception of her being taken out of body in her etheric form, right, through the wall, which the etheric form can get through. And then when you're out in the etheric, everything feels solid to each other. And I know that from out-of-body experiences, that I could go through the wall, but then if I saw people on other planes, they would feel solid to me. So it explains why both of them are right, right? That they're in the physical or non-physical parts of the same keyboard.
Right, that's your whole idea. The keyboard goes from physical into non-physical. It's all one vast
Yeah.
spectrum of being.
Yeah, and when Nassim was taught to fly the ship, remember they merged his mind with the ship, and then he panicked, so he was rocking around because he was the ship now. And they calmed him down and then showed him how to go anywhere he wanted to by thinking of where he wanted to be. And I laughed afterward and I said, so when people see UFOs doing crazy things in the sky, is that another Earth kid being taught how to fly one?
Elizabeth, while you're here, I just want to ask you, have any comments about what Elizondo has said in the coming disclosure that looks like it will happen at some point?
Well, I hope it does happen before they stage a false flag invasion, which is also a real possibility, because we have to get it out that I don't believe there are any hostile aliens, messing with us. Every story I've heard, every person who's actually been on UFOs that I've heard, it's all been that they care about our destruction of the planet. They have to kind of let us come to our senses, but I'm hoping that they will interfere when necessary, as they have when our missiles were threatening to launch,
So in addition to all the nuclear that they've neutralized, trying to tell us, hey, kids, stop this, right? I believe the whole Nimitz experience, because it was off the coast of San Diego, I think that they actually were trying to neutralize the buildup of energy on the fault lines. And also, Jaime Maussan has a camera at the big volcano, Popocatépetl, by Puebla and Mexico City, and they're in and out all the time because they're trying to neutralize. If that thing goes off, really goes off, you got several, like 10 million people around there. So
there have been some people with negative experiences, but I think it's like people. There's some good people, not so good people, but most people are pretty good, So I think it's a very complex situation. And I think it goes back to what Einstein said, is the universe a friendly place? How do you side on that? And I think it's a friendly place. And I think for the most part, these beings want to make friends with a bunch of apes whose favorite pastime is tribal warfare. So, we're doing.
There's a question that while we've got the Hertogs with us.
Yeah.
This is a question for the Hertogs. And Elizabeth, I think it'd be fun to hear your answer to this also. This is from Margie Biller. And I want to acknowledge a lot of comments have come in, so I apologize for not reading all of them. But Margie asks, what, in your experience, given your knowledge of ETs, how should it be handled? How should we move forward with disclosure to the world? So we'll start with hearing from the Hertogs, And then Elizabeth, if you want to comment, I think I'd like to hear what you have to say too.
Well, one of the heads of the space program of Israel, I know that's not a popular country right now, but he said that, you know, his country, the US, other countries are all in on this, as we all know. And he said that they wanted to release some of the information, and even the ETs said, no, it's not the time. Now, I don't know if you can trust him or not. I mean, it's Haim Eshed, but he's a very high level figure in the space program in the past, of course, of Israel. But I think, as Alan said, I think they want to see where we're going. I think they are here to protect us. I think they are going to watch over us. But I don't know if they feel we're ready for, you know, cosmic citizenship. I think that's the main question.
I would take issue. I would say this is the time of citizen diplomacy. We're on a very tight rope right now. We could go either way as a world civilization. And this is why we must push the envelope. We've published several books negotiating with other worlds you can get from our Academy for Future Science, where we must train our young lawyers to be negotiating the scientific and educational trade-offs. We must work with our Indigenous brothers and sisters publicly to see the positive side of contact. We must begin to work with those educators and thinkers who have to update theology and philosophy to understand that this is a universe of many cosmic cultures. Really, the ideal symbolic of the house of many mansions theme of the Christ figure in the New Testament is very relevant for those who even come from Orthodox traditional sources. But it really, to answer the question, goes back to the heartbeat of why we're humans in this form. We are here to bring humanity into a joy and into a realization that there's a divine spark within us that we can share positively, not hiding in a closet or putting our head in the sand. This is a time of cosmic renewal. It is a time of urgency, but a time of cosmic pluralism.
And we also think a time of graduation. And we do feel we're going to shortly be cosmic citizens. And it's only a very short matter of time right now. Look at the science pouring in from all sides on every level. I mean, Dr. Deck was talking, 64 areas of science. We're going to take a quantum leap from the 70s till now. And that's what's happening.
So we've spent 50 years working with the Indigenous elders, working with the biblical scholars, working with those former government people who are not afraid to tell the truth, that we're not alone in the universe, to put together this larger mandala or picture that we will have to work with on our level of vibration. As Elizabeth said so well, on the musical scale, our body is a musical instrument. We must be able to use the harmonic of the spirit, the soul, and the mind in new combinations of glory.
Well, this is an opportunity to go
Let's
into
get Elizabeth's comment. Yeah.
Well, before we do that, since they talked about it, I'm going to just briefly go to the website. Then we're going to hear from Elizabeth, and then I'll come back to you, Alan, to show the cruise.
Yeah.
But there is so much available from JJ and Desiree on their website. And the website is keysofenoch.org. There's a lot of wonderful things. Now, you heard them talk about the Academy of Future Science. So if you click this particular tab, that'll take you. And that's a great place to get their latest news and also to get their books. I mean, they've been going at it for 50 years, and we could do a show with JJ and Desiree every night. You're the Smithsonian Institute of Knowledge when it comes to this information, and so much of it is on your website.
Well, thank you for having us, Scott.
And Scott, we're going to be releasing more of our material in other languages. Keep in mind that we have documents that haven't been seen, films that we've done with the elders in Africa and Brazil and the interior.
And even music.
And
with Steve Halpert.
The music of the soul has to sing, and that's the joy. Without the joy of life, really life is simply a passing phenomena. We're thankful that we have you. We're thankful for Elizabeth, her courage, her good mind that penetrates and understands the work that we must all do in partnership.
Thank you. JJ, would you bless us with a vocal experience?
Well, why don't we just do the Om Shanti, since everyone is trying to send peace around the globe. Yeah, Elizabeth, did you?
With the happy face.
Yeah. I do want to say something before you close that out.
Yes.
And that is that I think it's very important and by the way, Scott, yes, you have the best experts here with Alan and her talks and stuff. Wait a minute now. Oh, I think it's very important for us to educate people to the fact that a lot of abduction reports are staged fake abductions by the dark military. And because this can be very confusing. And I think some of the negative experiences that people have reported have been due to those. I still believe that Stephen Greer's Hidden Truth, Forbidden Knowledge was an important whistleblower book. And he warned at how they were messing with people's minds. He warned about how ever since the Korean War, we've known how to manipulate people's minds and that they do these staged fake abduction things. So people have to be trained to discern what's real and what isn't about everything nowadays. And so I think it's important to warn people that there could be a faked landing by hostile aliens, and that many abduction experiences that are negative have been, mind control. I believe Stephen warned us that he was going to be mind controlled, and I believe he was, and that he lost it later. But
I do think there must be real ET abductions taking our genetics and creating a hybrid race.
Yes,
So
I
do
believe that's true because I knew 2 women who donated their eggs willingly to these projects. I knew them both personally.
Yeah,
Well, I gave a donation too, so I was happy about that.
and there's a question of why is that happening? But I go back to Linda Moulton Howe, who originally, for a while they were saying, it was good for us to preserve our species. But what we're finding out now, even with Area 51, that the alien that was there, and Dan Bursch was working with him, he was an associate of ours, and he was a chemist, biologist, microbiologist. They need our help. They need some of ours. They've been cloning themselves for too damn long, so to speak. We are fresh seeds, So I think that, well, they're not hurt us.
So Desiree, I think that's a good point, but I think it's all building to something really eminent. It feels like something's about to break in the whole field, and the world's going to have a rude awakening to what's really going on. That's why Danny Sheehan's calling his into the paradigm research. It's a paradigm shift. It's a paradigm, a whole different way of thinking about reality is what these ETs, whatever it is bringing us. And we have to get over this 3D way of understanding. And it's what Elizabeth said. There's the physical and non-physical, and human beings span that. Consciousness spans those realms. And that's what we're looking into.
Music, meditation, and the positive affirmations of who we really are.
Then we can
as cosmic beings in human form.
But then we call forth what we would consider the ultra-terrestrials, the higher powers of energy that are also watching us and caring for us. So I think, anyway, Scott, we'll get back with you in a future program.
We're so thankful for Elizabeth to join us.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Scott.
And just open our eardrums
and put our levels of peace around the world.
We're going to use the Sanskrit mantra, Om
once and then Shanti 3 times.
And Shanti 3 times. What do we say as Shanti 3 times? Or the Shanti is in Latin Sanctus, 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 or in the Hebrew Shekinah, Shekinah. It's the threefold nature, body, mind, and spirit being converged with the higher divine presence.
So send energies of peace around the planet.
And I'm going to intone this on 7th time. So the 7 seals or chakras, as they're often referred to as the wheel-like structures within our body, are activated. So close our eyes, but open our ears, see the beautiful light.
Or join us in
spiritually through your third eye. Encompass Mother Earth, children across the world holding hands, even walking upon the waters of the oceans metaphysically, bringing about a whole new introduction to the great graduation that is about to take place, we believe, in the not too distant time. And so we intone the words, Om Shanti, 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 Om. Om Shanti, 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 Om. Shanti, 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 Om. Om Shanti, 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 Om. Shanti, 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 Om Shanti Shanti Om Shanti 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 Om. May peace prevail on earth and the heavens in all directions. May those who seek the light be the light and be the family of light on earth as it is in heaven. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And I speak now to those who say, where is it in scripture? Go to the book of Esther and you will see that it's mentioned that India was there in the teachings of Esther. God's word went out also into the Sanskrit language. Breathe, we sing, we joyfully understand that our body is a musical instrument of glory. And thus by intonation, by synergy, and symphonic energy within, each of us become a part of the great orchestration of ascension.
We thank you. Have a great program. Thanks for inviting us.
Oh, thank you so much. God bless you.
Your frequency was a little too high for the Zoom frequency. We lost some of that, but anyway, Scott, yeah, the Hertogs and I are doing this amazing galactic cruise coming up in December. Are we ready for that?
Yeah, I'm going to pull up. You've got a video to show, and here's all the details. GalacticOriginsCruise.com. GalacticOriginsCruise.com. It looks like a beautiful boat.
Yeah.
And look at the amazing people that are going to be there, and a lot of our friends, a lot of people that we know. We love Vivian Chauvet, and of course the Hertogs are amazing. We love Laura Eisenhower. Haven't met Jerry Sargent, but it looks like it's going to be a great cruise. And of course, our beloved Deborah Giusti, who will be on the show Wednesday night, Anastara, Tony Ghazi. These are all people that we know and love. But you've got, and most of all, of course, Alan Steinfeld. Alan, show us the video you got.
Okay, here we go to the videotape. And you see that on your screen, right, Scott?
You do. Although you've got something else.
Oh, I know. Let me move all
there's
this.
gray blotches.
There, how's that?
No, I've still got gray blotches. Show it. Do you know how to do it in advanced setting?
Yeah, but let's just. I think that's okay, right? I mean, we'll just do.
This year, on board Celebrity Equinox, internationally renowned researchers, authors, channelers, mystics, starseeds, and spiritual luminaries will sail on an extraordinary voyage of transformation in this one-of-a-kind Galactic Origins cruise. Voyage into the ancient Mayan land. Explore the latest cosmic revelations. Learn about our galactic heritage. Rediscover the hidden wisdom and Earth's true history as presented by our stellar guest speakers and teachers hailed from around the world. Exclusive offerings include engaging lectures, workshops, special events, one-on-one sessions, sacred fire ceremony, live music performances, custom-tailored excursions. And if that's not enough, how about celebrating winter solstice on December the 21st, 2024 with an extraordinary world peace meditation guided by guest speakers and teachers? Secure your participation now. With limited packages available, this is your chance to embark on a once-in-a-lifetime journey of discovery and transformation unlike any other. Reserve your place today before it's too late.
Welcome back to New Reality. Okay, there. All right. There we go.
So December 14th to the 21st, taking off from Orlando, Florida, and going to the Maya Riviera, the Yucatan. Are you going to go to Chichen Itza?
One of those, Tulum for sure. We're going through the Bermuda Triangle. We're going to do a meditation that night. So we'll let you know if we go to another dimension there.
Yeah.
In Tulum, that's where they're taking us, and we'll do a meditation there. That's what we're doing because Chichen Itza is a little bit further in.
Okay. Looks fantastic. And I'm sure that some of our Global Peace Tribers and people watching may want to go. And again, I'm going to just go one more time to where you can get the information on it. It is, whoops, that's the wrong thing. That's our YouTube channel.
No, it is galacticorigins.cruise.com. I'll put it in the chat. Okay.
Exactly. There it is. And I'm going to show it one more time. I went to the wrong page. galacticoriginscruise.com, December 14th to 21st, with an amazing, just amazing, all the people that they've got. That's going to be quite a week, quite an amazing week.
Yes, yes. I'm excited about it. And of course, Deborah Giusti, our good friend, will be there because she likes to be in with all the action and she is a great coordinator of that.
Absolutely.
So what's coming up now? Where are we up to, Scott?
We need some music. You know, it's Saturday night. We've heard a lot. And we've got, of course, the perfect musical artist for tonight because he probably has more contact and connection on a regular basis with our ET Star family than anybody. And I'm talking about our beloved John Martin is with us. Hello, John.
Hey, Scott. What a pleasure to be here.
Oh, it's so wonderful to have you with us. And what are some of your thoughts as you've seen what we've talked about tonight?
I just think it's time for the individual to take their place in the universe and present who you are. That's what I did, Scott. As I went outside, I had a dinner with President Carter in Spain a number of years ago, and we spoke of UFOs. And I used that beautiful experience and then Close Encounters, where you combine music as a communication tool. And I went out on my deck and I began playing my guitar and projecting into the universe. It's something that I've loved my whole life. And almost immediately, these beautiful craft came in. A purple plasma craft with a pink ring around the bottom third of the bell was directly over my home. A beautiful cross and crescent metallic shaped craft the size of office buildings came over. And I've been doing it for a decade, and I've had thousands and thousands of these experiences. And we all can do that. You know, there's something about each of us that is completely unique. I mean, we have survived in this difficult third dimension, and we are here and we're living our lives. And I think that is of great interest to our star family. What is important to you? What resonates most with you? And share that. Introduce yourself. Go outside and say hello to these loving entities that are so ready to meet us halfway when we do that. And that I think that is the next step in contact.
You know, John, you mentioned when you played for Jimmy Carter, and I just happened to have a photograph from that moment. There you are. Your hair is a little darker. Jimmy's a little younger. But there you are playing for one of the great presidents, one of the real good guys that clearly was a good man. And so that's a pretty cool moment, and I'm glad we get to share it with our Global Peace Tribe audience.
Thank you, Scott. And you know, after the big events happened here, I just felt like I wanted to write to him about my experiences. And so I wrote to him and I told him exactly what happened. And he wrote a beautiful note back to me, acknowledging that, you know, it's a valid and wonderful aspect of life. And actually, I printed it and it's in my book. I've got a book out called The Universe Loves You. And it's, if you're interested in learning how I made the effort and the different techniques that I use so that you can do it yourself, there's many, I think, nice techniques that I use that I think are applicable to anyone that's interested in expanding your experience with our larger family.
Beautiful. And I think you've got some beautiful music for us, yeah?
Yeah, I'm going to do just a short meditation.
John, your music is so beautiful. And we are going to watch one of your videos that you put together for us tonight. How did we get your book? While you were playing, I was actually looking for it. What's the best way for people to order it?
It should be on Amazon.
You know, when I went to The Universe Loves You, there are many other. Oh, here it is. I found it. Okay. There are about 6 other Amazon books called The Universe Loves You.
Oh,
but I
I'm on
found
Barnes
the
and
one.
Noble, and I think if you put in just in a Google search my name and that title, yeah, there it is.
Here it is. Here it is. So it's a beautiful book. John sent it to me. And of course, there's an iconic photograph that we love so much of the heart-shaped cloud that your friends made for you at a very special time.
That was the first gift that I received from our star family, Scott, when the cross and crescent passed over, and I was fumbling with my camera, and they said in my mind, please don't take our picture. We'll give you something you can take a picture of. And a few days later, in my courtyard, right where the same place where I first saw them was that beautiful heart-shaped cloud. And they've done that many times for me. And I call them aeroglyphs because it has great meaning, and there's a lot of multi-dimensional aspects to it's a very temporary art piece, but it's very it touches me very deeply, and I think it has strong messages for all of us. So there's actually a little section in the video I made for you of the different aeroglyphs they've made for me.
Oh, wow.
Well, I think they're very important.
You know, Mark Danisovsky just wrote that John Martin is always in that serene well of wisdom and beauty. Beautifully stated, Mark. Beautiful.
I appreciate that, Mark. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, we're going to have more from John, but I'm going to turn it back over to my wonderful co-host, Alan Steinfeld. Hey, Alan.
Hey, John. Hey, thanks, John. That is always good to hear you and to know that you're kind of connected in with these beings. And Scott, I told you earlier, I'm at this place in upstate New York where they're doing a CE5 next door to me in the actual room. They were going to do it outside. I wanted to broadcast this from outside. So I got a message from the woman hosting this party before we came on, hosting the CE5, and I wanted to just play what she said to me as I was getting ready for this program. She came into the room. This is Zazar channeling, and let me just play this interesting clip that is about this openness we're moving into, this time of meeting the others. And this is Zazar, who's coming, Marilyn Gadovic, and she's coming on the cruise, and this is her message from the being that talks to her called Zazar. And she got, right as we were going to go on, Zazar told her this. Let me see where this is, right here.
All right. So tonight, Zazar, we're having a big contact night at the sanctuary. And Zazar, who is this multidimensional being who you're seeing on picture, says that tonight, as contact is going on in the studio, and as Alan is broadcasting from another room in the house, the contact in the studio from the ETs will create frequencies that will be dispersed through the house to Alan through his computer to the entire community that's not only listening, but that will be used as an offshoot to go throughout the earth.
Wow, and that's happening tonight.
That's happening right now, and soon, as we all sit down to go into meditation. And then when you get on the show, it's coming in through you, because you will be like a broadcaster of the contact frequency that's coming in.
So I'm going to be broadcasting the contact frequencies through the computer to the people listening.
Exactly.
Wow.
And you don't even have to know what they are or anything.
Okay.
This is what beautiful Zazar is communicating.
Thank you. I'm here with Marilyn, who's the channel for Zazar. And that's one clip. And then this is another. That's interesting, isn't it, Scott? And this is what her
human
comment on
raises
disclosure.
their consciousness to understand that we can all be in unity, not only as a human race, but with all the races of the world, of the cosmos. And so disclosure happens in us when we finally believe the truth that we are not alone, when we understand that disclosure is a thing that happens within our own consciousness, and we raise up to that level. Disclosing what? Disclosing to ourselves that magnificent light beings we are, and because of that, our connection and channels and openings to so many beings who share that light. That to me is disclosure.
Anyway, did you get that, Scott?
Yeah, it was a little soft, but we got the gist of it. And
Okay. I have two
I
more.
like the way of thinking that when we as a mass consciousness, when the group consensus reality of enough of us say, yes, we accept this, that's when the door will open, so to speak, for there to be more of a public disclosure.
Exactly. That's why John's music's so important, because he's bringing in that frequency of love, of openness, of being, because it's up to us. We can't wait for the government to do. This is a citizens movement, which is what Danny Sheehan's all about. It's like we have to do it. We have to demand, like all the rights movements, women's rights, black rights. We have to demand what is the truth and fairness from our government, of the people, by the people, and for the people. I know it's a little idealistic, but why not? So I have two more clips from Elizondo. Are we good with that?
Yeah, let's take a look at them.
All right, let's take a look at those clips from Elizondo, because there's one he did on CNN, and then there's one that he concludes. This is the CNN clip where he talks about what he went through.
Luis Elizondo joins me now. How unbelievably exciting. Everyone is almost hitting their televisions with trying to lean in on this moment. I mean, you have written that the U.S. government has been operating a decades-long, I got to read this, crash retrieval program for these UAP, that biological remains of non-human origin have been found. Are you telling me that aliens are real?
Well, what I'm saying, Laura, first of all, thank you very much for having me on your show. What I'm saying is that we have something that is made by non-humans. So whatever that means, right? We're talking about aliens in the vernacular sense, or are we talking about something that's been here all along? There's a lot of options. We're just now at the point as a nation, as a country, as a government, where we're beginning to acknowledge this.
Why is it that there is so little transparency around this issue? I mean, what drives that decision? Is it fear? Is it lack of information? Is it something else?
All governments want to make sure that they can provide safety and security for their people, for their citizens. And in this particular case, we have technologies that are being incurred into controlled U.S. airspace and over sensitive military installations, performing in ways that we cannot replicate, and there's nothing we can do about it. So that's not a really good conversation to have if you're a military leader to have with the American people, right? Until you have a solution.
We recovered some of these crafts?
So what I can say, I wrote my book for a very specific reason. First of all, I wanted to document and record my experiences in an actual UAP program by the Pentagon. But more importantly, I had to get it reviewed by the Pentagon. I had to go through a security review. In this case, almost a year it went through the security review. And so when I finally got the book back, that was the Pentagon saying, you can publish this. It is not classified. And in fact, anything that we don't want, we're going to go ahead and redact, which I left in the book. So anybody can read and say, oh, that's a portion the government doesn't want you to see. And I kept those redactions covered so people can see exactly what I wrote.
Can I have that copy?
Well, I don't. Okay. Well, when I say the redactions are in there, what I mean is the black lines, right? I'm very careful. I still have my security clearance, and I certainly don't want to violate the law or compromise national security. But this is, I think, is important because this is the ability for me to write an experience and get it approved by the government to say you can talk about it. But that's not the only time that's happened. Recently, last year, there was a historic hearing that occurred in Congress where several people, 2 pilots and an intelligence officer, testified before the American people under oath to Congress, where they talked about none other than the potential of the recovery of advanced technology not made by humans and biological samples.
Continues its review of the historical record of U.S. government UAP programs, adding that they have not discovered any verifiable information to substantiate claims that any programs regarding the possession or reverse engineering of extraterrestrial materials have existed in the past or exist currently.
Now that's interesting, Scott. So the Pentagon gives him the okay to say that we have recovered craft, and then they come out with a statement saying there's no evidence that there is this. So they're saying two different things. They're saying, "Oh, sure, tell me." I mean, so they're trying to confuse people. It's so complex. What do you think is going on there?
Well, one thing I want to acknowledge is, like yourself, I've been following this from the moment that Lou Elizondo came out.
Yeah.
Do you see how refined he's gotten? I mean,
Yes.
he is, I don't know if he's hired a public speaking coach, but he was pretty clumsy a couple of years ago.
He was.
And he's on point. He's clear. He's very believable. And so I'm just really impressed with how far he's come.
I know, but what I'm asking you is the government, Pentagon says it's okay to talk about that. And then they come out and say, there's no evidence of anything you're talking about. So they're letting him, so it makes him look like a liar or a fool.
Well, yeah, but the way I interpret that, and I want to see what our chat box has been great, by the way. And I'm sorry that I haven't read more comments today, but the way I interpret that, Ellen, is there are people, the majority of people in the Pentagon want this to come out.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, there are other people in the Pentagon that are under the influence of Lockheed Martin or the Dark Cabal or whatever you want to believe. And they're the ones that say, no, no, no. And that's usually how it is. It's think about it, even if you're in elementary school, but you get away with something until somebody higher up says, no, you can't do that anymore. Right.
So I think what you're saying is the government is not one monolithic thing. There's many people making decisions. Actually, in Elizondo's book, he names Lockheed Martin, he names Raytheon, he names Boeing as those companies that have the artifacts that they're trying to reverse engineer. And they're the ones putting pressure on the politicians to keep this to themselves, because otherwise they have to give up that material. There's something called the Chuck Schumer UAP amendment, where he's going to put this eminent domain. Any private citizen or company has to give up their UFO materials to the government. And so that's something that I know Danny Sheehan's fighting for, the Schumer amendment that's going into the National Defense Authorization Act 2024, and it's going to be voted on. It was voted down last year, but Schumer is really insistent on this coming forward. He even has in the bill non-human intelligence, NHIs. And so there's a push inside Congress to make this transparent, more transparent. So there's one more clip from Elizondo, and then just a kind of concluding clip here that I think will be a way to just kind of pull all this together. And let me see where that is. This concluding clip is, I have stuff here. It's the Schumer amendment. Let me just go through this. There's that. That was the testimony in front of Congress. This is Chris Mellon, who's a big spokesperson for the whole thing. And here, now I have to say this, we're doing all this courtesy or not courtesy of Ross Coulter's interview with Lou Elizondo on News Nation. So if anyone wants to look at the whole thing, go to News Nation. But this is what Ross' final moments with Elizondo said.
Lou's a patriot, isn't he?
Yes.
What's driving him?
He feels that humanity is owed this information. People should know if we are not alone, no government has the right to keep that hidden.
A growing public movement seems to agree, as interest in the UAP question continues to intensify. both online and at UAP conferences around the country. Plus, there's been a veritable avalanche of former military officers coming forward with similar claims, including Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet and Colonel Cal Nell.
Non-human intelligence exists. Non-human intelligence has been interacting with humanity. This interaction is not new.
You have absolute conviction that a higher form of non-human intelligence has visited this planet, that there are factions within our own government that know about this, yet we still don't have a plan, and they may represent a security issue. This may pose a threat to humans, yet you still believe that we should disclose. Is that right?
Correct, right. So there's really three reasons. So the first issue is the moral right. The government exists for and by the people. And so the nature of reality is fundamentally not government information. People have a right to know the world in which we live, and the pursuit of happiness requires that knowledge. Kind of overarching philosophical foundation for this.
I thought that's the most interesting part here.
Yeah, that is interesting. Really interesting.
We have a right to know the nature of reality. That is part of our basic human facilities. That's freedom. And if the government is denying a level of reality, they're impinging on our freedom, our pursuit of happiness. And I think that's something we all have to protest. So let me just finish this here. And
it's potentially revolutionary and transformational.
You have come a long way since 2017.
You said.
What's been achieved?
I'm most proud of the fact it's being openly discussed in the halls of the Pentagon. That means that the stigma and the taboo is finally evaporating, and we can begin to see the topic more clearly.
What should any citizen do? How can they help you?
Get involved. Talk to your members of Congress. Ask questions, whether it's around the dinner table or the water cooler. That's what I would encourage people to do. Start asking the hard questions.
So Lou Elizondo, crystal ball. Let's go 1-2 years in the future. Are we going to be as much in the dark then as we are now?
No, but you know, disclosure isn't a sprint. It's a marathon. It's not going to happen overnight. Disclosure isn't an event, it's a process. I think this next generation, if our kids are any indicator of hope, that's where real disclosure is going to occur.
Isn't that interesting?
It's a process. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon.
Right. And, you know, part of what I see, the struggle for disclosure is actually helping us clarify who we are. If the government just said, yes, that's here, we would miss this opportunity that we learned through the struggle, the struggle and the way of refining things. You know, John Kennedy said in 1962, we go to the moon, not because it's easy, but because it's hard. And in this push for the truth, we're finding out a lot more about the government and about who we are and the potential for human beings. Instead of just being given to us, we need that little pushback to help redefine ourselves. I mean, that's my optimistic opinion about that. So it's looking good. We will get the truth at some point, and hopefully sooner or later, and the truth is ongoing. There is no one truth, but the fact that we're not alone in the universe is key. It is the age-old universal question of humanity. And I think that, like a lot of the old mysteries, are going to be solved. And that's something we have to look forward to. It changes our history. It's potential technology improvement. It's a biology understanding. It redefines society and who we are as human beings. We're not a freak of nature. Life is not an accident. It is pervasive throughout the cosmos, and so is consciousness. And so, you know, who we are the galactic beings, and we're about to interface with beings that I think can help us perhaps out of our mess. That we have to help ourselves, but I think, you know, we have a lot of situations that we could use a little help with. Don't you agree?
I do. I really do want to read some comments from our audience.
Okay. Yes. And
question: do you know how much of the book was redacted? Do you know?
Not that much. I haven't seen the book. It's in every bookstore, but You know, I think he said maybe 20%. I don't know, but you can look through the book and see all the redacted pages.
Okay.
So,
And I want to really appreciate Dr. Laura, Lori, Carol Craig, Katie, Mark Danisovsky, George Noble have all been putting, Elizabeth Sartoris, Scotty Sartori, Margie, have all been writing. There's been a really dynamic conversation taking place in the chat box. And that's a reminder to all of you watching on Facebook, YouTube, join the Global Peace Tribe. Come on in, be in the Zoom room, get the links to these things, be part of the conversation. And that's also where you can ask questions, because we take questions from the audience for all of our shows. So,
you know, I just want to say I go through some of this in my book, some of this overview of what are we dealing with since Roswell. Actually, Elizondo said there were 2 crashes at Roswell. One took off. That's in his book. So, but in my book, I go through the whole phenomenon and how complex it is. It is not a simple answer. There's not one race here. It's multiples with multiple agendas. And who we are as a human race is also in its evolutionary moment. And that's why this is happening now at this time. The vibration of the planet and our minds is elevating, and we're about to meet the others on another playing field. They're not coming down to our level. We're raising up to their level. So,
well, this is a good time to tell people to get your book. I am putting it into the chat box right now. And you can, of course, find it on Amazon. And here it is, Making Contact, Preparing for the New Realities of Extraterrestrial Intelligence. And it really is the Bible of making contact. It really is. And you've got so many great presenters. You've got Linda Moulton Howe, you've got Bertox. Who else?
I got Whitley Strieber. I got John Mack, a previously unpublished essay by John Mack, who's really the godfather of this, because he legitimized abduction. He said these people are not crazy. So I thought the only way to really give a fair understanding is to get a little piece from everyone and let the reader put this together on their own, because if you listen to what these government people, no one knows what the truth, no one knows what's happening. That's part of the cover up. They can't acknowledge, look, there's something out here and we don't know who they are, where they're from, and what they want. So that makes them look a little ridiculous. And so we have to understand it's up to each one of us to make sense of this phenomenon, and then allow the government, or let the government, or pressure the government to come forward. So as a planetary species, we can look at the evidence and see how we're going to do this together as humanity. It's our time to come together.
Margie just wrote, Greg Braden has said that the government already knew that there were pyramids on the moon when they sent men to walk on the moon. So that's an interesting thing. We love Greg Braden. Dr. Laura writes that the secret space program has been a complete criminal operation, so they're also fearful of reprisal. That's a good point.
That's true. I don't know about the secret space program. I have yet to see evidence of the actual, but some people say it's happening. I mean, you know, I know abductions are happening, which is like something, you know, you're in your bed at night, the doors are locked, the windows closed, and something is at the foot of your bed all of a sudden. We can't explain that. So that's a real shock to our system. That's a trauma. So I don't know if they're all good, but that trauma and fear is something we have to get over if we're really going to meet these beings, because they're not like us on some level. So the fear is what's in the way, and there's nothing to fear if you know who you are. That's my feeling.
What is your perception of how many of the abductions and even UFOs that we see are crafted by human beings, and how many are non-human intelligence?
I think most of I know Elizabeth may have a different opinion, but I think most of the abductions are by beings looking for our genetic material in order to create a hybrid race. And I think most of the things we see in the sky are probably non-human intelligence. There probably is some reverse engineering that already happened. But I think if you go out there with night vision goggles, have you ever done that, Scott? You see these things going through the sky. I saw this triangular shape with night vision. As I was looking at it, it went from its shape pointing up to pointing down. As I was looking at it, it's like somehow it knew I was looking at it. And I think there is this mind link to humans that a lot of people talk about. And that's something we have to develop, this understanding of what consciousness is and the real use of consciousness.
Well, we'll definitely have to talk to John Martin about that. I mean, in fact, no, his camera's off. But when we put John back on, because that's what John does. There he is. Hey, John, I just want to bring you on and what you'd like to say about what, in response to what Alan just suggested.
I really think it's a muscle that we can exercise. We all have that ability. You don't have to understand how it works. You just go out, and we have that innate ability to share the very best of ourselves. We communicate with each other as we're doing right now. You can just as easily do that with the universe. And that's what I do, Scott. When I'm outside, I speak with our star family, and if I don't see them, I know they hear me. And at night, as you'll see in the video, they come and interact on a nightly basis. When we're done here, I'll go outside. It's getting a little late here, but I'll do it anyway. And they love to signal. I'm trying different things. I put a drone up near Deneb there at the Cygnus constellation, and they'll come in and they'll buzz around it. It took me almost a year to get one to show up on the camera of my drone, but they think it's fun that I can, I'm trying these different things, and the energy they send is so beautiful. And the reason I wrote the book is I want everyone to bring their own perspective to this very vital aspect of humanity in the universe. If you can imagine millions of us taking the time to share the best of ourselves to the universe, we will absolutely elevate this world to a more loving and just a better world, really, period. And that's why I've been spending so much of my time working on this.
Well, this is a good time for us to show the video that John put together for us. And I want to read a couple of comments that have come in, and then we'll show John's video. And then, Alan, I know you still have a couple of videos to show.
Well, let's see. I might not show those other videos because we've covered a lot of what I wanted to say anyway. So.
Okay. All right. Well, good to know. Ayana writes, if there are not so benevolent ETs, John, I imagine that your frequency and open heart draws only the benevolent ones.
I feel very strongly about that. Whatever you project is what comes back to you. That happens, here as we interact with each other. It's just as valid throughout the universe. We are blessed beings in many ways, and we have to recognize that in ourselves, that there's a type of divinity that each of us have that is honored and respected. And when you make that effort to share the very best of yourself, whatever it is, whatever you've dedicated your life to, share that in a very meaningful way with the universe. That's what I did. I just sat out and I sat and played Bach and Ravel and Jobim and my original things, just stuff that's very important to me. And at the same time, my mind was working in a dual fashion. I was playing guitar, but at the same time, I was sending my best thoughts and energies and love deep into the universe. And there's a quantum element to that where distance is, it doesn't play into it. You've activated yourself here and is on the other end of the universe and all areas in between and through all the dimensions. And when you see that in your mind, then it's a reality and it happens, and the universe acknowledges that. And it's a wonderful, beautiful experience. And I've never had any negative experiences, and I've been doing this for many years now.
Susan Bloomquist writes, John, you're saying that our own abilities and emotions are the only tools we need to connect to a new reality, including our star family. Dia writes, John, I love you for opening me up to speak. I love out loud to all of nature, all of life. Namaste, dear man. Dr. Laura writes, Elizabeth, really appreciating you, Elizabeth Sartoris, I'm so grateful that you're with us, Elizabeth. She writes, right on, John, ground that cosmic love. And then she points out that Greg Braden shows evidence that we humans were GMO'd by non-Earthlings about 200,000 years ago. So we are a hybrid. And I'm going to bring you on, Elizabeth. Is there anything else you'd like to say about that? And that's a pretty significant, what you're sharing. So,
well, let me say that as an evolution biologist, I don't have a very clear picture of human evolution. And so I hold multiple hypotheses, and Greg Braden's is one of them. I also have a multidimensional friend who can remember a life way, way, way before Atlantis and Mu, when some humans were still born with tails, and her job was to cut those tails off.
Oh, wow.
And her story is that non-physical beings worked hard, had to lower their vibrations to enter creatures on Earth, like advanced apes or whatever they were working with at the time, in order to get into those bodies. And then it's our job to re-raise those vibrations again now. But that could account for some of the reasons why humans also have this really nasty streak.
That makes a lot of sense to me, and I think that resonates. Mark Janisowski is going to put up Chi-Chi Young's YouTube channel, which is all about high consciousness. And Ayada also says, is there anywhere where there's actual access to where people can study Greg Braden's or anybody's kind of what they, how they've come to that conclusion that we are hybrids of some sort?
Well, Greg's website, of course, and he's written a lot, so his information is certainly available. I haven't found a more plausible explanation of who we are.
What are you saying, Elizabeth? That we're hybrids? I think
we were GMOs, right? Genetically modified organisms.
Well, this is what Linda Moulton Howe says. The evolving primates were genetically upgraded by these other races to
yeah, I don't think
emerge.
It wasn't so much, Ellen, a case of upgrading the apes. It was a question of non-physical beings wanting to come to Earth and being in this dimension, and so getting themselves into something that they could work with.
Something physical. So we are those non-physical beings that we got into these bodies. So we are the extraterrestrial consciousness, I feel.
But we're all of it. We're them, and we're the Earthling.
And we're the apes, yes.
And that's why we have to ground cosmic love down to our physical toes, not just get it intellectually, not just get it even in the heart, and hold those Mu kids coming in who know where they came from, who are of the higher vibrations. They have to be held and grounded in physical love to keep them here.
Well, that's been the struggle of humanity. Do you listen to the lower three chakras or the upper, chakras? I mean, where do you base yourself? So
all of it.
I think we are shifting that reality. I think these wars now are the final call of those tyrants that want power.
Yeah, so we have to raise our vibrations, but keep our feet on the physical ground while we do so.
Embodiment is important. I think
I'm on my way out of the physical, and I may be coming to these meetings.
Not so fast.
Not so fast, Elizabeth. Not so fast. Well, a perfect example of high vibration in human form is John. And I want to play a video he put together just for us for tonight. And everybody, you're going to be able to see amazing stuff in the sky, but I just invite you also to listen to the quality of John's voice, the vibration of his voice, the love that he exudes as he says, hello, friends, hello, It's thank you, thank you. I want you to know, John, I imitate you. I walk around and I'll look at nature and go, thank you, thank you,
That's so
thank
great,
you.
Scott.
And
So
I'm
cute.
pretending that I'm John Martin. You are my role model in that way. So here we go. Let's take a look at a beautiful, beautiful experience. Let's drop in with John Martin.
Thank you, John.
Oh, my battery's going low. Don't go out on me now. That's amazing. That's wonderful. Thank you, friends. Wonderful. Thank you, my friends. That's just great. Thank you, lovely friends. Wow. Thank you, beautiful ones. Oh, yeah, you keep those y'all in there. Thank you, beautiful friends. Thank you. That was awesome. Wow. That was really awesome. Thank you. Thank you, my friends. Just randomly. It's never random, is it, dear friends? Wow. I mean, that's one of the greatest things you've ever seen. Wow, friends. Spectacular. It's never random, is it, dear friends? Wow. I mean, that's one of the greatest thing you've ever seen. Wow, friends. Hey, sweet friends. Hey, lovely ones. Right by there. Hey. Hey, gorgeous ones. Hey, my beautiful friends. Thank you. Hey. Oh, I was hoping you'd come by tonight. Thank you, my friends. How beautiful is that? Thank you, beautiful ones. Thank you, my lovely friends. That was lovely. Thank you so much. Hey, beautiful ones. Hey, my gorgeous friends. Thank you for coming to see me. Hey, beautiful ones. I was asking what your name was. Thank you, sweet friends. Love you. Thank you, friends. Wow. Wow. Oh, there's my friends. Oh, there's two. Oh, how gorgeous. Wow. Gorgeous. So awesome, friends. Beautifully done. Wow. That was great. Thank you, sweet friends.
Oh, lovely. Hey, thank you, my friends. How absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Hey, my dear friends. Hey, gorgeous ones. You're so wonderful. Thank you, sweet friends. Thank you, beautiful ones. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you, lovelies. So important to me. Thank you. Thank you, gorgeous ones. Thank you, my dear friends. So beautiful. Have a lovely night. Thank you. There you go. Right through. Hey, friend. Thank you. Thank you, gorgeous one. Thank you, beautiful one. Hey, hey. Yes, indeed. Thank you, my lovely one. That was fantastic. Thank you. Gorgeous. Thank you, my beautiful one. Thank you for that. Hey, beautiful one. Oh, my goodness. Hey, loveliest. Oh, you are gorgeous. Hey, beautiful one. Hey, my sweet friends. Oh, how lovely. Thank you. Thanks for coming to see me, dear friends. Look, you're so wonderful. Thank you, beautiful one. Oh, my gracious. Hey there. So wonderful to see you tonight. Thank you, beautiful one. Absolutely gorgeous. Thank you. Hey there. Love this. Yeah, that's oh, it's so great to see you. Yeah. Wow. Thank you, Fred. Oh, how beautiful. Thank you, gorgeous one.
John, this is always my favorite part of the shows is watching your videos, listening to your music, listening to Elizabeth. Isn't it beautiful the way he talks to them? Shouldn't we all talk to each other the way that John talks to uh, the Sky family?
Yeah. Hey, John, would you ever want to do a retreat with a making contact retreat in your place?
Or I can meet you where you guys are too. You know, you can do it anywhere. That's the
Yeah.
great part of it. It's, you know, it's within us. So location is not really a factor at all, as Elizabeth knows as well.
Right. But there are some hot spots. I think you might be in a hot spot where you are down there.
I think we create our own hotspots, is what it is.
That's true.
Yeah, but you have created a hotspot because now they all know, hey, let's go listen to some John Martin music. You know, let
Well,
John.
I have an agree. You know, we have an agreement. There's a little park right next door, and you know, I used to do it here in the courtyard, but there's so many homes around me that I want to respect that. I mean, I think it would be helpful for everyone to experience it, but they need, you know, to have full knowledge and come to it in their own way. So there's a little park next door, and there's a picnic table, and I set up there with my little cameras, and you know, and I can project music in my mind. That's what I do as well. Is, you know, it's so deeply ingrained in me that it's a crystalline aspect of who I am, and I just send that music deep into the universe, and they immediately recognize that. And you know, we've just got this understanding that, you know, I'll be there, and if I can't, I'd stick my head out and I say, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to make it tonight, and they understand that. And uh, you know, we have a very civil relationship. You know, I've never had anything, you know, intruding into my personal space. You know, we honor each other, we share higher vibrational experiences, and there's a deep love that's generated between us, and that's what I want everybody to experience.
But
And that,
have you ever had visitations? Have they ever shown up by your?
yes, I've had a few visitations. Yeah.
All right.
Like the one that came through the portal at the park, that was at the end. That was a being that was not quite in our dimension, but you could see the portal it came through. And what's interesting is that was kind of early on in my experience, and I turned away. I took a few, like 4, maybe 5 pictures, but I turned away from that being. And when I walked home, um, I was wondering why I did that. And I thought about that the entire day. And then I went to the park that night, like I always do, and this beautiful golden energy dropped down to treetop level. And I apologized. I said, I'm really sorry I wasn't able to give that lovely being the time it deserved. And it just expanded in luminosity many times, understanding that this is, you know, this is a challenge for us. It's difficult in many ways. So they're very understanding, and there's so many levels, as you know, Alan, and I so greatly respect your work too. And Scott, you are such a hero to me. I'm so honored to be here tonight.
Well, it's an honor for us to have this connection because what I was trying to communicate is there's so many ways people are looking. Some people are saying, what? There's UFOs, and other people are saying, you know, it's negative, it's positive, and then there's the higher levels. As we go higher in ourselves, we meet those beings at the levels that we resonate on. That's my
I
feeling.
think that's true, Alan, and I don't think there's any top to it. You know, there's the levels are as high as we can aspire to. And so I bring the very best of myself, as you do, into this. And when we all do that, when we recognize that what we have to offer the universe is as valid as what they have to offer to us. They are as interested in our lives as we are the potential of a rich relationship with them. So we should do everything in our powers to really try to make that a reality. And we can do it. We all can do it. That's my biggest thing. It's available to all of us.
Yeah, no, one thing, Jeffrey Kripal, I read a lot of literature. Jeffrey Kripal is a great thinker, Whitley Strieber, but Jeffrey said there's a reflexive quality to the phenomena. If you're a negative being, if you're in government and trying to make weapons from this, you're going to get that negative reflection. If you're love and light and joy, you're going to get that reflection. So there's this very strange reflection of consciousness that is being amplified in the face of what the other is. And the logical, rational thinkers can't understand that, but I think we can.
Yeah, my father was an aerospace engineer with Lockheed. He was very high up in that, and he just finished this really big project, and he took me to Lockheed, and we went in. And it was a private tour, and I don't remember anything about it. And he quit his very important job there about a week later. And I spoke with Whitley about this, and I really think they wanted to put me into one of those secret programs. And my dad said no, and we had many difficult years following that. So this goes back very far for me, Alan.
Right. There is a whole, Elizondo does name these corporations in his book, Eminent. And so something's in the way for us knowing this ultimate truth, that we're part of a universal consciousness. And I think is this just a struggle to keep the vibration at a 3D versus where we want to go. And some of us are on higher dimensional levels of consciousness. And as the Hertogs were showing us, Scott, it is a global phenomena. It is not just in this, it's planetary.
It is planetary. Of course it is. Of course it is.
Yeah.
Well, John, thank you so much. I put the link to John's book into the chat box. But again, for all of you watching on Facebook and YouTube, it's The Universe Loves You by John Martin. Just Google it or put it into Amazon and you'll find it. It's about the fourth Universe Loves You book down, but it's the best one. And then,
thanks, Scott.
And then also, again, Making Contact, Alan Steinfeld's real, the book that is just got really the top leading voices in the field sharing their wisdom. So these are two wonderful books to get.
Are you doing announcements, Scott, now?
We're about to move into announcements. We're about to go.
Yeah. No, I had something else I wanted to announce, but after you want to
for it. Go ahead, John.
No, it is
Alan.
Sedona Ascension Retreats. Can you click on this and bring that up on the screen in the chat?
Sure can.
Sedona Transcendence Retreats, which is that coming through there?
Yeah. I'll bring it up in a second.
Which is happening this September in Sedona. Geez, I put it in the chat. Yeah. And it's going to be a fantastic gathering of people. We're doing Lisa Royale, who's one of the original channels of the Lyrans, is going to be leading a CE5 there. This is medium psychics and channels. It is really next level. This woman, Ann Tucker, who we should have on the show, talks to angels. She has some amazing predictions about the coming of this light phase. Maybe it's a solar flare, maybe, but that light is going to uplift the planet. That's what she says. And she's going to be here along with a bunch of other really brilliant people. You can get tickets. It's September 19th to the 21st in Sedona, which is a vortex that everyone should visit. I'm sure a lot of your audience has. And there's a lot of other stuff. The cruise, the Conscious Life Expo coming up. So we'll do more shows as these key events show up, Scott. Thank you. It's been a really great night. We've covered a lot. I'm so happy Elizabeth was here.
Yeah, wasn't that fun?
We need her as a full-on guest next week in
Absolutely.
Contact.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And we didn't get to Stephen Bassett, but I'm going to post the Stephen Bassett interview I did with him for this show on my YouTube.
On your YouTube channel. Okay, great.
I'll put it on my YouTube along with Alexis Brooks, who had some really interesting things to say from the experiences point of view. One thing I want to tell people is that we're just talking about the pre-disclosure world, which is about are they here, what do they want, and then the post-disclosure world is all about the experiencers' contact, like what's going on as people's consciousness expand as we meet these actual beings. Yeah, there's craft, but who's behind the craft is the real question we want to talk about. What do they want? What is our relationship with these beings is the question that the government hasn't even brought up, but that's going to be the real question once they acknowledge, okay, we have visitors. Well, the next question is, what do they want? What is our connection? And that's going to be a conversation that's going to involve every single person on this planet. And I think it's a mind expanding conversation that will change our nature of reality, what we think reality is.
I agree with you. Hey, I want to remind everybody about Alan's channel. It's Realities. Just go to YouTube and put in New Realities, and it's an amazing channel. He carries every Awakening World show. You can find all of our shows there. And he's been with everybody. Joe Dispenza, Paul Lowe. I knew Paul.
Dolores Cannon, that's gotten really big lately. This Dolores Cannon video I've done. Bud Hopkins was just there, who was the original abduction specialist.
I interviewed Bud way back in the day.
I have the earliest interview with Nassim when he was living in his van. I didn't do that video, but I came across it and I posted it and I showed it to Nassim. He laughed at it because he's talking about the same thing, this fractal consciousness. But so there's about 3,000 thought leader interviews. Deepak Chopra has been a popular guest. Who else has been on that show? Yes, Greg Braden, Bruce Lipton. We just did a whole thing with Bruce Lipton. And I try to seek out people who are pushing the envelope of what a new reality is.
Right.
So me and you, we're talent scouts, Scott. We're looking
right.
We're looking for the cutting edge. And that's what we want to bring to the national audience, the Global Peace Tribe.
Now, how often do you is there a particular schedule?
I do about 3 or 4 shows a week. I'm going to be interviewing Susan Giesman. And when there's events coming up, I do interviews to promote those events. So Matt Kahn, I just interviewed. So I do about, if you look at New Realities, I talk to at least 3 or 4 different interviews every week. And this is just my playlist. Here's some of these other ones. Montauk Chia, Paul Selig is great. This woman, Ann Tucker, it's already begun. That's interesting. That's where she makes the predictions. And then I have shamanism. Here's I've interviewed Deepak every time he has a new book out, he says, will you interview me? And then I had my new book out. I said, Deepak, would you interview me? And Deepak did interview me with my new book. That actually helped put it on the bestseller list on Amazon. And I talk about sex and sexuality, conscious evolution.
Learning how to kiss. Now, that wasn't with Deepak, though. It was tantric kissing techniques was definitely with somebody different than Carla Tara. I know Carla Tara. Oh, my God.
Yes, Carla.
Yeah.
This conversation with Jim.
It's fantastic what you've got there.
Well, I've been doing it since, before there was YouTube, I was doing shows on Manhattan Cable.
Right.
And I had this bulk of shows that I just had to transfer to digitize it. And that gave me a head start as one of the early YouTube creators. So, there's a lot of people who have more subscribers, so subscribe, but I have about 86,000 subscribers. I want to get to 100,000.
You'll get there. You'll get there. You'll get there.
And thank you, thank you. So subscribe if you're watching this to youtube.com/new realities. And it's always great. Yeah, I'm going to be interviewing Susan Giesman coming up.
And you'll be in Sedona in a couple of weeks, so that's going to be fun.
Yes, you're going to be in Sedona?
No, you're going to be in Sedona.
I am going to be in Sedona. Yes, yes, yes. And then in the spring, I'm going to be there with Bashar. He's coming to the couple of conferences, and actually I have a great interview with Bashar. It has 500,000 views, so I should put that in the chat. So, you know, the times they are changing, as our friend Bob Dylan says, and we're trying to keep up with these changes and also facilitate the change. That's why it's so exciting. I mean, Scott, you've been at it 3 times a week. I mean, how many shows have you done in this platform?
Over 600. Over 600.
Yes. So, you know, and you've been keeping up with it, you know, since the whole thing began. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's an ongoing, evolving movement, and it keeps growing. It keeps expanding into all those beings that are just coming on board and waking up and saying, what? There are these other levels of reality. And that's what makes our job so exciting, is that our community keeps expanding.
Yeah.
And
Because of shows like yours and mine. So,
yes, yes, yes.
Alan, thank you. I've got a few important announcements, and then we've got a closing on Bashar song.
Great.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you. I'll see you soon, Scott. We'll do more shows.
I look
Yes.
forward to it. Love you.
Thank you.
There he is, my good buddy Alan Steinfeld, who I have known and been working with one way or the other since 1989. All right, we've got a really big week coming up. So I want to show everybody what we've got going on, because hopefully you're going to be participating in all of these wonderful things. Now, this Wednesday night, we have our regular Awakening World, but it's going to be a unique show. It's going to be the launch of the Founding Mothers Movement. The Founding Mothers Movement. And while Omashar is playing his song, I will put into the chat box a unique Zoom room link. You know, most of our shows, as you all know, only subscribers are allowed to come into the Zoom room. But for this particular show, we're going to do a lot of extra promotion, and we're using it as an invitation for people to discover the Awakening World as they discover the Founding Mothers Movement. So there will be a unique Zoom room link. It's open to the public, and I'll post that into the chat box while Omashar is playing. And these are incredible women. Wait till you hear what they're up to. They are doing a lot, and it's really exciting what they're creating. Then on Friday night, we're going to have a special event. It's going to be a kind of a unique experience. Some of you all know Andrew Keene, and this is, and I'll also put the details for this also into the chat box, but it's going to be a special celebration. Remember last week we had Rick Ulfik on the show. It's the 20th anniversary of the 11 Days of Global Unity. And this is a special event happening on Friday, 1 o'clock Pacific time, 4 o'clock Eastern. And there'll be all those people joining us. Missy Galore, you remember Missy? She's awesome. Patricia Ann Davis is a very wise woman. Jody Sirota. Jody, you know her, Alan. Of course, Kristen Hoffman is providing a video. And several other new friends, people we haven't seen on the show before. So it's a special event, free to everybody. And that's going to be this Friday, the 13th at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So please do join us. Then for those of you that live in the San Francisco Bay Area, I am producing a couple of events at the Sunrise Center. And the Sunrise Center, you'll recall, is in Corte Madero. That's in Marin County. We're just about 30 minutes over the Golden Gate Bridge, or 30 minutes from the Golden Gate Bridge, depending on what direction you're coming in. And so for any of you in the Bay Area, Roger and Bonnie, George Noble, and others, come on down. This Thursday night, September 12th, Ray Amana is going to be doing a special concert And you've seen Rhea on the show a few times. She's wonderful. I really love this woman. And she's going to be doing a concert and a voice activation, Songs for the Earth, this Thursday night and in Corte Madera. It will not be online. It's in person only. So join us. And then a really big event is happening. Next Saturday night, September 21st, we are going to be live in San Francisco. It's the 40th anniversary of the International Day of Peace, which started in San Francisco. Of course, it's happening all around the world. Omoshar is going to be in Japan. There's going to be a 24-hour live global broadcast, which we're going to show most of that or a lot of it on the Awakening World. And they're going to be in key cities. And there are several major cities where there's a lot going on. Well, one of those cities is San Francisco. So from 11 a.m. till 4 p.m. on Saturday, the 21st, there'll be a big ongoing stage program going on just out in front of City Hall in City Center Plaza. And so for those of you who can come on down, come on down. There's going to be music, Maria Moldar, Joan Baez, some really cool people playing music. They're going to be dancers. And yours truly is going to be there providing the online version, interviewing people. And so come on down, meet me, have fun. I've invited some wonderful co-hosts. You remember Jayoti Ma, the woman who works with the Kogi. She'll be with me in person as a co-host. Oshala, who you saw on the show last week, she'll be with me as a co-host. And Rhea Mana, who we just saw, will also be with me as a co-host. So it's going to be really fun on September 21st. So that's what's going on. I hope to see you all, of course, online for these events. Hope to see some of you in person who can come to the Bay Area events. And I am going to put in the chat box the essential information and close us out with our Alpha and Omega man, Mr. Omoshar.
Yes, the icing on the cosmos. This is a beautiful nebula behind me. And for the closing song in this Awakening World, I have to say that tonight's Making Contact show has been, I think, the greatest one that we've ever had, that you've ever had, Scott. It's because now what I'm seeing is all of these amazing disclosure beings like Alan and JJ, etc., are bringing consciousness fully into the whole picture and acknowledging that as we rise in frequency and as we accept the new realities, then they will be revealed to us, not the other way around. And this little photo here is a time-lapse photo of behind me and of stars at some place with a tree. Anyway, it's pretty cool. I thought it would be lovely to have that during this song whilst people dance and sing and drink.
The awakening world is rising through our hearts, through our lives, as we take the next steps together, walking tall, no disguise. Here we are again, loving all we see, lift each other up, let each other be, healing all the past, healing you and me, loving all that's gone, loving what's to be. The awakening world is rising through our hearts, through our lives, as we take the next steps together, walking tall, no disguise, nothing left to say, nothing left to do. Let your spirit shine, let your soul on through. Time is what we have, time to think anew. Let inspiration flow, let inspiration flow. Lift each other up, let each other be. Nothing left to say, nothing left to do. Let your spirit shine, let your soul on through.
And so I'll give a big, beautiful twinkle to Omar Shar. Thank you so much, my beloved friend. Of course, every time I hear that song, I get chills and I get tears.
Me too. And it evolves. All of these songs, they get written kind of as a result of the consciousness of the show. And then they get polished up and honed, and new rhythms and new sounds and just little tweaks, and to a place where I finally like them, because normally you'll write a song and you record it and all the tweaking happens in the recording, but these happen real time. So anyway.
So beautiful, Omar Shar.
While it's on my mind, I'm going to bring Sean on in a moment, but hey, everybody, in the Zoom room, you do need to register for Wednesday night's show because it's a unique Zoom room. So it's free. But I put the link into the chat box. It'd be a good idea. I'll send out an email reminder, but while you're at it, just go in right now, just click and put in your email address, and then you'll automatically be sent the Zoom room for Wednesday night's show. And again, Wednesday night's show is going to be very, very unique. It's the launch of the Founding Mothers Movement. And wait till you hear what these women are doing. It's very exciting. And here is our beloved John Martin. Boy, between music from Omar Shar and music and visual from you, John, thank you both so much.
This has been an honor to be a part of this show, Scott. Thank you for having me, and you are really making big, important moves for the universe. I'm so honored to be here with you.
We get to watch the awakening world. Take care, everybody. Thank you, John. Thank you, Omar Shar. Thank you, audience. I'm going to go to Gallery View to close this out. And I hope to see all of you on Wednesday night. Make sure you register so you get the link. And I'll also send out the link in an email. but it'd be great if you can register for it right away. Margie, you're going on the cruise. Congratulations. Mark Janisovsky put into the chat box something really cool that he's doing. You know, Mark always is creating wonderful music in one place or another. And Charlotte was with us, and Charlotte's going to be in Toronto with JJ and Desiree, Bruce Lipton, Greg Braden. I'm having FOMO, a little fear of missing out right now. I love you all so much. See you on Wednesday night. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. And remember, we can make every day sacred by choosing to see the divinity in all.